I'm so excited to show you what's been going on in the month of May. Where should we start? Let's start from here. So we finally put our pumpkins out. This is like crown prince squashes, just winter squashes and butternut squashes. I want to take you into my brassica cage. I've got two brassica cages, so I'll show you the oldest one. So come with me. Inside here, these are purple sprouting broccoli plants that have overwintered. So basically, they were planted over a year ago and they're still giving us food. This is so good. This is one plant. If you really want to grow something that will last you, you just have to have space. But it's one plant I'll encourage you to grow because you can eat the green leaves and then you can eat the sprouts. They're not as big, obviously, because they're coming to the end of their cycle, but they're still giving us food. When they start coming into the end of their life, which is going to flower, they're still absolutely perfectly edible. So this is one of the reasons I love growing purple sprouting broccoli. I think I talked too much about purple sprouting broccoli. In here, we've got other broccoli. So the calabrese, which is the green broccoli heads that we're used to. We've put these ones in from the month of Feb, and I've also got some kale, which is the kale flower sprout. I got kale plants over here, and then some parsley. So when these purple sprouting broccoli finishes, I'll probably put in Brussels sprout. Come on, I'll show you some other things. These are winter, frost hardy vegetables, the brassicas, which is like your cabbage family. So they do really well in the weather we've had, but we have some plants that have struggled with this weather. First off will be obviously the sweet corn. So these were put in about nearly a month ago and they haven't grown at all. As you can see, they just really, really struggled. Over there, these were planted in the month of March. And I put some here. I have some in my home garden. If you see my home garden tour, you'll see these ones are doing better at home. Some other plants that have struggled with this weather will be my tomato plants. Cold nights are not good for tomato plants, but I just needed space and I had to put them out here. This is one of the reasons we have to wait till our last frost date to put things out. But I'm hopeful they'll survive once the weather warms up. These onions are doing absolutely well, although some of them are forming seed heads. Over here, I'll show you, I've got some fennel. On the same bed as the onions, I have some fennel, which by this time last year, I was actually harvesting some fennel bulbs, but no problems. They're still okay. They might go to seed early, but they're still perfectly edible. They say fennel is not a great companion for other plants, but I have some shallots here, which seem to be okay, and I've just left a little space between them. The beetroot should be a lot bigger than this as well, but as you can see, they're struggling so much. Hence, I left some in the Polytunnel because at this time, it's just been a mild spring. So one of the reasons a lot of things have not done well, apart from my brassicas, obviously. My bean bed, I have direct sown some runner beans or climbing beans, and they're looking happy. They're a little bit much, but I'm hopeful that they'll all pick up once the weather picks up. In this corner here, I have some sweet potatoes. They haven't been too happy, but I just had extra plants. Most of them are in the Polytunnel this year, and I put them here, and they might survive once the weather picks up. So I've just put this little shower frame here as a little sort of improvised cold frame and a plastic sheeting just to help prevent the really cold nights. Other than that, we just wait and see what happens. Let's show you more things that are coming up. Okay, these are my spineless blackberries and they're beginning to form flower buds. I haven't done anything to it this year, just left it and it's doing well. This is the third year for this plant, so we're hopeful we'll get lots of fruit. It's just got a bit of stake around it. Over here I've got this beautiful plant. It's oregano, but it's milder. I think I call it golden oregano. It's a lot milder than the normal one. And I've got my rosemary that's just beginning to come back. It struggled in the winter, but they're new leaf shoots, as you can see. This is my compost, homemade compost bay, and it stinks here. And a little bit of mess as well in the corner. But as we know, every allotment plot has got its little corner of mess, and that's one of them, my compost bay. In this corner here, we've also got the main compost bay. We've got the main compost bay where we make our homemade compost. If you have a good look, we've got food scraps, coffee grounds, whatever we can find. We don't specifically have any, regimen for turning our compost. We just put it all in and maybe turn it once or twice in a year. But I think the more you turn it, the quicker it breaks down. But we've been able to produce compost using this bay and that bay for our whole plot. The boys have got some strawberries here. This is the younger one's bed, but we've also got some thyme, and I've got some lemon balm that I picked there, so that will come back. And then this is the first one that might ripen. I hope the birds don't get it before the children. They will be gutted. Hopefully this week they'll pick it. My wildflower corner, calendula. This time last year my calendula was in flower, but can you imagine? This is what calendula is doing this time. It's not even grown enough to flower. This is just showing us what sort of mild weather we've had. However, these are all self-sown chamomile plants that have done really well, and you see lots of ladybugs. Can I show you what nature is doing in my plot? Ladybugs all over, because as you can see, we have aphids all over the place. So these ladybugs are doing their job. They're having a good meal, and the chamomile is looking glorious here. Also, some other flowers are about to form. These are spring sown onions, and the ones in the bed earlier are actually overwintered ones. So hopefully we'll have onions at different times of the year and not lack onions. But this is one of the best brassica cages because this is enviromesh. It's hopefully to prevent the onion fly from coming in. Fingers crossed. Would you like to see what my polytunnel's like? Come in and let me show you the poly. This sweet potatoes, comparing this to what we have out there, is doing amazingly well. Like, they're really doing good. Although we have some purple leaves, which is a sign of cold, they're doing better than what we have out there. I put some runner beans in here, and look, we have buds. So we might have runner beans soon in here, but obviously not outside. On this side of my polytunnel, it's pretty much all peppers and onions. I did put cucumbers, which have struggled because it's just too cold. In hindsight, maybe I should have left one at home and pampered it, but it's okay. A month or so we should have cucumbers. Fingers crossed. The whole row of peppers, we've got a plant with 2 fruits, like 2 decent sized fruits at the end of May. I did fleece over here. So this sort of fleece, I used this fleece over this whole row in the beginning of the year, and it's made a difference to this pepper plant. I took the fleece out a week ago, and some pepper, I can see them looking stressed. Oh, actually we have another fruit here. We have another fruit here as well. These peppers are all from saved seeds I bought from the shop. So that is how I've been growing my peppers for the past 3 years. I just don't buy pepper seeds anymore unless there's a specific variety I'm after. The top stage in here, I've got more sweet potatoes that I put in the month of March, and they're still happy. And also another bag of sweet potatoes. I saw a video about using bags like this, and I thought I'll give it a try. It's my very first time doing this, but that's why I have the stage in here, because I want to grow some things upwards. A few more brassicas that have, succession soon. They're like my purple sprouting broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and then I'll have sown a new batch so that I would have enough brassicas all through the winter. So although this is May, we have to start planning for our winter garden. Only a few things left in here. I've got the beetroots that I said are struggling outdoors, and these ones are like a month behind, but they're so ahead in here. I need to put them out, and a few more marigolds for when I have some more tomatoes to plant, and some other just flowers and vegetables, and a strawberry pot here for the boys. I thought I only put this in 2 weeks ago, and it's fruiting and flowering nicely. So this is one thing you can do. I've seen a lot of people put their strawberries in their polytunnel, like hang it up and get early strawberries, but we're not too fussed. I just find it's easier not to have things on my head in the polytunnel in the months of winter. I've been using this for my smoothies and stuff, and then I have one beautiful pepper that I've moved from the house here, and you can see lots of fruit. This is a special chili Scotch bonnet habanero pepper, and also I've got okra there and lemongrass. So I've got lemongrass there. I've got okra that's not too happy and some water leaf. And you can see this plant has got a bit of damage from the cold and slugs since I moved it here just over a week ago. So in as much as it's in this little cold frame thing in the polytunnel, it still gets cold simply because, as you can see, we've had really low temperatures, 2.7 at night. So this polytunnel has struggled with temperature fluctuations. Never mind. So the temperature fluctuations is quite normal, but this has been a milder spring, so that's why we have that. I love companion planting my peppers. So I've got marigold, this is African basil, scent leaf. I just do this because it helps reduce the pest load in the poly, especially because it's a confined space. There's not the greatest of airflows. And that's one of the reasons I've left this windows open for airflow, because when you're growing in a polytunnel and you don't have good airflow, you end up with higher level or incidence of diseases. Although that means you could get really cold nights and your plants could feel the cold, but it's better they're exposed to more air than none. Okay, let's take you over to my other plot. I'd like you to see what's happening over there. So let's go there now. Welcome to plot 28B, the very first plot we had just before the pandemic in 2020. So we've had this plot for just over 3 years and the 4th season of growing food. So come and I'll show you what's happening on this plot. I planted some lavender from seed when we first got this plot and it's looking good. We inherited this asparagus patch. It's on and off, but it's almost come to the end of a season now. So basically this is a seed starting cold frame and also a cold frame for some tender plants. So I start some seeds there. I've got some jute leaves there in a row, as you can see, and a few brassicas in here. I just take them out and I transplant them to where I want them at the end of the day. So this is a nice area. If you have a space like this, you can just make a frame where you can start seeds and transplant, and it just reduces the transplant shocks because the plants have grown directly from seed and also they're used to the temperature and the climate of your environment. This is the first planting we did here this year. We did some celery and some Swiss chard. I covered the Swiss chard here simply because the pigeons will come and eat them. At least when I've taken my first picking, I can take off this little mesh and let it just grow as much as it can. And at that time, we probably have more plants to eat and to share with the wildlife. I've got a little mint patch here. Mint is best to be grown in a container so you don't end up having it spread all over the place. So I've just been cutting it as and when I need it. I've got some herbs here as well. I've got oregano here and a few wild rockets, and I've just put in some sunflowers and a few brassicas here. So this is just a mixture of vegetables. Monocropping is not ideal to prevent pests. So what I like to do now is I mix my vegetables around just so that I have a diverse variety of crops growing. Some will repel the others' pests and eventually give me decent harvest. I know we're not really keen on plastic, but sometimes we mulch with plastic. So this bed is going to be my last tomato bed when I harvest side shoots. So I'm going to take the suckers from my tomato plant and I'll put them here. For now, I don't have enough just because I didn't want to grow 100 tomato plants or 80 plants. I wanted to grow what I could manage indoors and outdoors and eventually put more out. In my allotment, we had a plant sale. So they sold some of these plants. Like I said, I didn't have enough tomatoes. So I've just grown this. As you can see, it's root bound. It's not really the happiest, but I've made some holes. I'm just going to plant them here and hopefully we'll get a decent harvest. There are a few random varieties. So long as they're tomatoes, we're going to have them. What do you think, kiddo? Are you happy with any tomatoes? Yeah, they're happy. We just want some food, that's all. Also companion planting tomatoes with marigold, which you've got there, and also basil. This is really helpful to prevent pests, and also apparently it helps the basil grow better. In this little this little hideaway here, we've put in some corn, and this sweet corn we're hoping to get a decent harvest. So we've just covered it up because it's still really cold. We open it up to water We open it up to water and we cover it back up until probably middle of June, or in a couple of weeks, I hope. Fingers crossed. Something I was going to show you about no dig or no till, like they call it. You see this bed? We've mulched it over winter. We mulch it nicely with a lot of horse manure and broken down straw. As a result of mulching this bed heavily, we have a bed that is still moist despite us not having had rain for nearly a month. No rain whatsoever. But the bed has been mulched nicely. And if I look in, come over here, cameraman, you notice we have some worm action here. Can you see the worms? Can you see that? Look over. Can you see this? And this is really good for your soil life. So mulching, if you have access to straw, horse manure, is really ideal. And then look at this. I haven't had to weed this bed all through the season. Whereas in contrast, let me show you quickly. Come around and I'll show you. That's somebody photobombing my videos. In contrast, this bed, we didn't mulch it because we didn't think we'll plant brassicas here. And we've had a lot of weeds. As you can see, we've had a lot more weeds. Although last year we did mulch it, so I'm just using what we have available. But we have more weeds here, and the worm action is not as great. Obviously, there are still worms, but it's not as great as you have on the bed that has been mulched. This is where I can do all my silly dance moves with no trouble. Potatoes, as always, we used the same bed for potatoes last year and this year. But I think next year we need to heal them up and be a bit more organized. It looks too scattered, although they are actually in rows, but they don't look that way. Same thing about mulching. I planted rye grass here and we dug them up. It's a bit of an experiment to see which will do better. And over here, we just mulched with rotted horse manure and straw. And at the moment, this bed is looking a lot better. Now here, this is our second brassica cage. It's a bit lower. It needs a lot of movement. So to get into it, we need to open it up and go in. But it's fine. We can go in and weed. And this is just like an improvised thing I've done. We have a mixture of early cauliflowers, just random things in here. And then here will be my overwintered brassica tunnel, which at the moment we just have collets in. Brussels sprouts, purple sprouting broccoli will really go in here, and a few cauliflowers or romanasco. So just tallish plants because the height, and also things that will stay till next year, so I don't need to worry about it. And hence I have put a plastic liner here as well, the weed membrane, because we have a lot of bindweed in this pot. So this is just the easiest way to prevent bindweed. I planted a row of sunflowers here because the sunflower will provide some shade to my brassica bed. They don't like the heavy heat in the summer. So this is what I do. If you have a brassica area in a really highly or really hot place, plant things that will shade them out and help reduce the heat in the heat of the summer. I've got a little blackcurrant cage here. These are blackcurrants I've taken from cuttings last year. So I have a few fruits, but not many, not too many fruits. And I covered it up because last year the birds got them before me. I might get a little handful or so, but they're baby plants, so there's nothing wrong with that. When we first came to this plot, we had a compost heap like that. So we were able to take a lot of compost from here, but we had a lot of rubble, a lot of wood, a lot of trees that we had to trim off. And so we made a pile, and it's just been breaking down. This is the third year. It's been breaking down nicely. So we're just gradually getting this place, redone. We have a lot of nettles growing here, which I enjoy using for my teas and my, tinctures. So it's not a bad thing. You get a lot of weeds, which are good and beneficial, and also for compost. That's what the brassicas are looking like, the cabbages and cauliflowers. They look happy. And also over here, this is what the collets are, but something is eating them. Something is eating my plants, and I'm not ready to start spraying. Normally, when it gets to the middle of the season, I start using a bit of neem oil, but I'm not ready to spray them. I want to let nature take its course. So sometimes We don't need to intervene, especially now they haven't grown yet and this thing is not affecting the growth so much. So I'll let things be and let nature take its course. I have to weed this bed before I go. If you've watched this video to this point, if it's added any value to you, if you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and let us know what you think in the comment section. Any tips, to growing what I'm growing, let me know also, and how you have secrets to growing bountiful food. Until next time, this is your one and only Mecca at Mecca's Healing Journey, and I'd like to ask you to please subscribe. Click the subscribe button down below if you haven't yet, and I will see you in another vlog. Bye.